Have you ever wondered what happens when a will, well, when it writes checks the estate can't actually cash? It's a really tough situation, right? When someone's final wishes just don't line up with the money they have left. Today, we're going to get right into it and unpack exactly how the law untangles this kind of financial knot. Believe it or not, this happens a lot more often than you think. So to really get our heads around how the legal system deals with it, we're going to follow a story, a case study that breaks this whole complicated puzzle down piece by piece. So our story starts with a father. And like most people, he had the best intentions. He drafted a will to make sure his family and his community were taken care of. And, on the surface, his plan looked absolutely perfect. Okay, so here's the game plan he laid out. First, he was very clear all his debts needed to be paid from something called the residue. Now, that's just a legal term for whatever's left over after the specific gifts are given out. Then he left his home to his daughter, all of his stocks and bonds to his son, some cash to his late wife's brother and his church, and then whatever was left, that residue, was to be split between his kids. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, here's where the perfect plan hits a major snag. After he passed away and it was time to settle his estate, a really big problem came to light. It really just came down to the math. The father's debts, what the courts call approved creditor claims, were way bigger than the money in that residue fund. The estate was, in legal terms, insolvent. And that's just a fancy way of saying there simply wasn't enough cash to pay everyone what they were owed. And that is the million-dollar question, isn't it? With not enough money to go around, how in the world does the law decide who gets paid first? And which of these really thoughtful, heartfelt gifts from the will are going to have to be cut, or maybe even wiped out completely? Thankfully, it's not a total free-for-all. The law actually provides a really clear, structured playbook for this exact scenario. And here in California, that process is all thanks to a legal doctrine called abatement. You can think of abatement as the official rulebook for an estate that comes up short. It gives everyone a predictable step-by-step method for how to use the estate's assets to pay off its debts, even if that means, unfortunately, that some people don't get what the will originally promised them. And this right here is the absolute key to this whole process. In the eyes of the law, not all the gifts in that father's will are treated the same. There's a very specific hierarchy. So let's break down the different types of gifts from our story. We're going to see exactly how the law ranks them, from the most protected all the way down to the least. So here it is, the legal pecking order. At the very top, in the VIP section with the most protection, you have specific gifts. Think of the father's house. It's a particular identifiable thing. Then in the middle, you've got general gifts, like those cash amounts. They come from the estate's general pool of money. And then all the way at the bottom with the least protection is the residuary gift. This is literally the leftovers, and it's always the first in line to get used for paying debts. Okay, so we've learned the rules. Now let's actually apply them and see how this hierarchy plays out in our father's estate. We're going to follow the legal order of operations, step by step, to see which gifts get sacrosanct and which ones, hopefully, survive. You can almost think of this as an order of sacrifice. It's crucial. You start at the bottom of that priority list with the residuary gift, and you work your way up. If that's not enough to cover the debts, the law moves on to the general gifts. And only, and I mean only, as a last resort. If every other fund is totally wiped out, are those specific gifts even touched? Okay, so following the rules. First up on the chopping block is that residuary gift, the money that was supposed to be split between the daughter and son after everyone else was taken care of. And poof. It's gone. The entire residue was completely wiped out to cover the estate's debts, and there was still a shortfall. So that means the kids' inheritance from this part of the will, it's zero. Okay, so since the residue wasn't enough, the process of abatement moves up the ladder to the next category, those general cash gifts. And you probably saw this coming. These gifts are sacrificed too. The money that was supposed to go to the church and the late wife's brother-in-law had to be used to pay off the rest of the creditors. So now we've reached the top of the pyramid, the most protected assets in the whole will, the specific gifts of the house and the investments. And here is the final result. Because the debts were finally paid off by using up all those lower priority gifts, the specific gifts are safe. The daughter gets the house, the son gets the investments. The system, while it feels pretty harsh for some, worked exactly the way it was designed to. And that's really what this is all about. Abatement isn't about emotion. It's about creating an orderly, predictable legal process to resolve what is, frankly, a messy financial reality. It makes sure creditors are paid according to a very clear set of rules. So, what are the big things to take away from all this? First, and most importantly, the type of gift in a will matters a lot. Second, specific items are way more protected than general cash or, the leftovers. Third, abatement provides a really crucial backup plan when things go wrong. And finally, a bit of careful estate planning that accounts for potential debts can help prevent this whole painful situation from ever happening in the first place. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Is abatement a perfectly fair system that makes sure debts are always honored? Or is it a harsh reality that can end up frustrating the crystal clear intentions of a will, leaving some of the people you wanted to help with absolutely nothing? It's something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.